Good day, everyone. This is Donis Bendicio, your course instructor for IO Psychology. Before we proceed with the reporting and discussions of the topics of the said course, let me introduce you IO Psychology as board examination subject here in the Philippines. Based on Republic Act number 10029, also known as the Philippine Psychology Act of 2009, Section 15, examination subjects for psychometricians states that the licensure examinations for psychometricians shall cover the following subjects: theories of personality, abnormal psychology, industrial psychology, and psychological assessment. It states that the board may recluster, rearrange, modify, and add or exclude prescribed subjects for psychologists and psychometricians as the need arises. Now let us have a brief background on application of IO psychology and psychometrics. As a future psychometrician, you may use tests that can only be administered and scored by you, assuming you are a qualified professional. Again, psychometrics is the field of science associated with the development of instruments to measure knowledge, skills, abilities, and other characteristics, which this kind of function is important in the field or practice of IO psychology. Once you are in the practicing profession, which may require testing and assessment, you will encounter different levels of tests, and this practice of testing is true in the field of human resource management as well, where IO psychology is mostly applied, particularly with the functions such as recruitment and selection, research and development, organizational development, job analysis, and the like. And during your practice, there are individuals who may not be qualified to use advanced psychological testing and assessment, which you will learn in the course or subject psychological testing and assessment. And this is where RA 10029 can be applied. A Section 3 definition of terms states, as a psychometrician, you shall be authorized to do any of the following, provided that at all times you will conduct them under the supervision of a licensed professional psychologist. And one of them is administering and scoring of objective personality tests, structured personality tests, excluding projective tests, and other higher level forms of psychological tests. Although these functions are mostly applied with a clinical setting, there are tests and assessments that are being used in the field of HR, which of course require the qualifications of a licensed psychometrician. Let us resume with the discussion on industrial psychology as board exam subject. Last February 9, 2022, board examinees for psychometrician took industrial psychology as the last subject for the said test. Again, as you can see, industrial psychology is 20% of psychometrician exam, that is a 100 item subtest with likely 7 outcomes based on the test specification provided by the Board of Psychology. In this session, we will have a brief orientation on IO psychology as board exam subject. The following are the outcomes for industrial psychology subject. We will have some brief background for each outcome and how our reference may help you to follow with the matters involved. For the first outcome, we may refer to the chapters 2, 3, and 4 of the provided reference discussing job analysis and evaluation, legal issues in employee selection, as well as recruiting and interviewing. In the second chapter, some items may touch legal issues, and it is important for you to have knowledge with the labor code, namely the Presidential Decree number 442. You can search this material online, or you may review the articles provided in this undergraduate course or the subject labor code. Next, as you browse the chapter 2, you will also encounter items related to writing job description, that is containing a job title, a brief summary, an extensive list of work activities, a list of tools and equipment, information about work context, compensation information, performance standards, and personal requirements. As we may discuss further job analysis in the next meetings, Brief background: a typical job analysis involves interviewing and observing subject matter experts or the SMEs. For example, computer technicians or IT personnel to determine tasks that are performed, the conditions under which they are performed, the tools and equipment needed to perform them, and the knowledge, skills, abilities, and other characteristics needed to perform those tasks. Further, there are methods that you may likely encounter. For example, position analysis questionnaire or PAQ. It is an excellent method for compensation uses. And the critical incident technique or the CIT. So it is an excellent method for performance appraisal. Next, you may also encounter job evaluation. So this is the process of assigning a monetary value to a job. Again, job evaluation. So internal equity, external equity, and comparable worth are important pay issues that must be addressed during any job evaluation, which will be further discussed in the next meetings. Next, in the third chapter, for an instance, you may look into the discussion on employment, practice discrimination, complaints based on sex, race, national origin, color, religion, disability, age, pregnancy, and qualified veteran status. As we may discuss later on in our next meetings, employers need to be cautious about violating employee privacy rights regarding drug testing, office and locker searches, psychological testing, and electronic surveillance. You will also know that organizations can be held liable for sexual harassment of their employees. So this harassment can take the form of a hostile environment. So the next in chapter 4, you may review discussions on recruitment methods such as help wanted advertisements, employee referrals, employment agencies, the internet, point of purchase methods, direct mail, and job fairs. You may also encounter traditional methods such as unstructured interview, which appears to be invalid due to several reasons. On the other hand, the structured interview can be a valid predictor, especially when it is based on job analysis, where it can also be standardized or all applicants are asked the same questions and applicant answers are scored with a standardized scoring procedure. So in this chapter, it may cover the three main types of resume, namely the functional, chronological, and psychological. Additional references may be found in chapters 5 and 6 that are focusing on references testing as well as evaluating selection techniques and decisions. All of these are discussed and can be browsed through the provided material. For the second outcome, the examinee will describe the process and principles in employee training and development, which can be reviewed through our reference such as Chapter 8, which is focusing on designing and evaluating training systems. In this chapter, you will learn steps in the training process, such as conducting a training needs assessment that includes an organizational analysis, task analysis, and person analysis. Training methods take many forms, so this may include classroom learning techniques, include seminars, audiovisual aids, instruction, case studies, and critical incidents. Again, these are applied methods in the field of human resource management and might appear in the board examination for IO subject. In this chapter, you may also see sample job performance techniques such as simulation, role play, behavior modeling, and job rotation. Informal training techniques include apprentice training, coaching, and performance appraisal, such psychological principles as modeling, distributed practice, and transfer of training. must be considered when conducting a training program. So it is important to evaluate training success by measuring trainee attitudes, knowledge, ability to apply newly learned material, and improve performance. So again, these three vital measures to know how trainees learn from the procedure. So these are the topics that likely appear with the outcome number two on describing the processes and principles in employee training and development. For the third outcome, you will apply the major principles in performance evaluation. So this can be reviewed through the chapter 7 focusing on evaluating employee performance. In this lesson, you will learn the steps in creating a performance appraisal system such as number 1, determining the reasons for performance evaluation. Number 2, identify environmental and cultural limitations that might affect the success of appraisal systems, determining as well who will evaluate performance, creating an instrument to evaluate performance. Number 5 is explain the system to those who will use it. Number 6 is to observe the document performance. Number 7 is to evaluate employee performance. Number 8 is to review the results of the evaluation with the employee. Number 9 is to make personal decisions such as giving raises or terminating employees. And number 10 is to monitor the system for fairness and legal compliance. Now, common rating errors such as leniency, central tendency, strictness, halo, proximity, contrast, recency, and infrequent observation of behavior hinder the accuracy of performance appraisal results. So these topics are very important in order for us to cover this outcome number 3. Okay. So important factors in the success of performance appraisal review include scheduling the review to eliminate or minimize interruptions, letting the employee discuss his or her feelings and thoughts, and mutually setting goals for improvements in future performance. So these topics may likely appear with the examination. The fourth outcome relates with the application of the major theories of motivation in designing and administering rewards. For this outcome, you may refer to chapters 9 and somewhat in chapter 10, so organization development, of the provided material, which will discuss, for an instance, the integration and application of theories such as individual differences, consistency theory, goal setting theory, expectancy theory, intrinsic motivation, operant conditioning, the Premack principle, equity theory, social learning theory, and the like. So you may also encounter factors such as self-esteem, achievement, motivation, feedback, operant conditioning, fair treatment, pay for performance and merit pay, incentive plans, profit sharing, gain sharing, and stock options, which likely affect the motivation and performance of employees. And again, somewhat you may encounter discussion on change management, factors affecting acceptance of change, levels of employee input, factors to avoid layoffs, negative effects of layoffs, effect of compressed work schedules, and flexi time to job satisfaction and absenteeism. Okay, so for the fifth outcome, examinees will apply basic theories in team dynamics. We may refer to some discussions of the group dynamics, or we may see chapters 10, 11, 12, and 13 focusing on employee satisfaction and commitment, organizational communication, leadership, group behavior, teams, and conflict. As you browse these chapters, you may encounter factors that likely affect employee satisfaction, absenteeism. You may also see different types of organizational communication, main problems in interpersonal communication, as well as techniques to improve interpersonal and written communication. You will also see the discussions about the factors and skills affecting levels of leadership, performance, and effectiveness. You may also see some theories on interaction between the leadership effectiveness and situations such as the impact theory, the path goal theory, the situational leadership theory, the vertical dial linkage, the LMX theory, and the like. You may also see discussions on factors that influence group success, formation, or development stages of teams. If you can still remember, this may involve forming, storming, norming, and performing. Now, discussions about conflict and factors that affect it, as well as the reactions to conflict, may also arise with the examination. Next, the outcome number 6 allows you to differentiate the various functions involved in human resource management, which can be found from first to last chapters of the reference, from the job analysis, acquisition, or employee selection and recruitment, designing training systems, managing employee motivation, performance evaluation, job evaluation, pay and benefits, discipline, satisfaction and commitment, organizational communication, leadership, team dynamics, organization development, maintenance, which likely focusing on safety and health, such as stress management, employee relation, and the like. Lastly, the seventh outcome, the examinees will recognize issues about the work-life balance and well-being in the workplace. So this can be seen in chapter 10 and 15, which are focusing on employee satisfaction and commitment, as well as stress management or dealing with demands of life and work. As you browse with chapter 15, you may encounter meaning of stress. For instance, it is referring to as a psychological and physical reaction to certain life events or situations. So it is said that common sources of stress include personal stressors such as occupational stressors, as job characteristics such as role conflict, role ambiguity, role overload. Now, organizational characteristics or work environment such as noise and temperature can also affect the performance of an individual. Change in relationship with others, such as the conflict, difficult people, dealing with angry customers, can also affect these workers. So it has been suggested that at a personal level, stress can affect marriages, for an instance, and relationship with others. At a health level, for an instance, as well, stress results in a number of psychological problems such as anxiety, depression, and physical disorders such as joint pain, cardiovascular pain problems may also be considered. At an organizational level, stress results in burnout, okay, increased drug and alcohol use, lower job satisfaction, increased absenteeism, and increased turnover. We may also deal with discussion on type A individuals and pessimists are more prone to stress than type B individuals and optimists. Now, such techniques as exercise, laughter, and health diet, not smoking, getting plenty of sleep, joining support groups, self-empowerment, and time management can reduce this stress as suggested. Okay, so these matters may likely appear to board examination or discussion, and you may also experience them in the field of human resource management once you are working in the said field. Okay, so thank you so much everyone for listening. So we will see you in the next discussions on IO psychology.